Today we're going to be changing the spark plug wires on my 2008 Ford Explorer 4x4 with the V6 engine. One thing you'll note when you open up the wires is there's some really long ones, there's some really short ones. The short ones are for the driver's side and the long ones are for the passenger side. Don't mix them up, and just to be sure, we'll replace them one at a time so we don't mess up the order of where they go on the spark tower to where they go on the individual spark plugs. This is the spark tower, and you'll see all 6 wires come up here. And this end, there's these squeeze clips, and you squeeze them. And they may be a little tight if you've not done this job before, and they should pop out. Should pop out of there, and you'll see they're a little greasy with silicone grease. We'll grease the new wires when we put them in, and again we're going to do these one at a time. So now I'm going to work down this side of the engine. There's some plastic clips that need to be removed to free up the rest of the wires. So I guess what I'll do is I'll just get the rest of these loose. This one's on there really good. There it goes. You can see the wires come down and they go to this clip, and there's another clip right on the other side of the dipstick there. So what I'm going to do is reach in here with a screwdriver and pop this little clip. It should just pop right off. You got to be careful with it so you don't crack it. And it opens up like that, and then we can pop these wires out of here like that. I'm just going to do these one at a time. And before I do that though, let me get the clip on the other side. There, the screwdriver, that one's barely hanging on. So there they are. And I'm going to start with the bottom plug, I think. So we've got this clip here removed. We've got this clip over here opened up. And I'm going to work the plugs from the bottom wire in the rack up. So I'm going to start with this plug down here, pull that off, and rerun the wire. Start with this short bottom one first. Just reach in and pull the plug off. It should slide right off. And pull the wire off the bottom clip. Careful not to break it. Get that guy out of the way. Real quick, check the length. These are a little bit longer, which will give us some room to play with. Start with the top, get the top clipped in. And then we'll come down in here and clip the wire into the clamp. We'll stick the new plug on, plug cap, should just slide right on. Got a little click. Yep, there it goes. And then this has a little extra wire than the others had, so I'm going to kind of split the difference on the slack. I'm going to let it curve around with a nice curve, and then this top part will be a little bit of extra. That's okay. Do it like, keep it like that. All right, so next we'll go with the second one. Reach in here and get the second one. Cut right off, get the clip. Pull a clip, come up here, pull that off. And see, this is why I wanted to do them in order. So that second plug is actually the end one over here. Let's not mess up the order. Pull that guy out of there. And we'll find one that matches. All right, just like the first one, we'll come in, we'll clip our clip in. should just snap right in place. And we'll run the wire where the other one was run. And there it is. There's number 2. Slide it out of the clip. Looks like the clips are fairly fragile. Be really careful with them. Pull that wire out. And there it is. Fasten our clips, and the driver's side is good to go. Now we'll get the other side, which is a little bit more difficult. So what we'll see on these wires, the passenger side, got a clip, got another clip right in there, and then it kind of goes underneath all this other stuff. So what we're going to do is remove this plastic plenum so we can see more easily. First thing we're going to do to make this easy is come in here and remove this wire. Use a screwdriver to slide that red tab out, and then squeeze this. It slides right off, nice and easy. And then we're going to pull this screw here to loosen up. We're not going to pull it, we're just going to loosen the band. And I think we're going to leave that on. And yeah, you know what, come to think of it, we'll just take that off too. We'll get it all out of the way. So the air cleaner pops off, a couple little clips, and it should just lift right up. And now that we're free on this rubber thing, it should just pop right out. And of course it doesn't wanna, so we won't do that. We'll leave that loose. The next thing will be is to get this guy off. To remove this little hose here, there's a clip underneath it, just a push tab. This pops off super easy. Don't have to pull anything. And then we'll grab this screw in the back. Now the whole thing should just pop off. There we go. So this is where an easy job turns into a harder job. Those wires are run so neatly through this weird plastic thing in between the alternator and the engine. And they pop out underneath that thing. So there's the right way to do this job and the wrong way to do this job. And I really don't feel like leaving the wires hanging all over the place, which some people might do. So I think I'm gonna pull the alternator off and get access to that. I've changed the alternator on this vehicle before. It's not hard to do, but it just adds to this task. What we're gonna do is remove the belt. In order to remove the belt, we are going to put a socket down in that thing, and it will let you release the belt by twisting it. We'll pull that bolt, that bolt, that bolt. This little guy's held on by that, the clip here, and the plug there, and it all just pops right out. First thing we'll do is get in here with the 3/8 socket. Get in there and you push down on it, and you get enough space to slide that off just like that. And let it back up. I'm going to leave the wrench in there. Actually I'm not, because I'm going to need it in a little bit. Before we do any of this, disconnect the battery. And I should have even removed the battery before we started on the spark plug wires, but that's okay. This is 10 millimeter over here. We're just going to get in and pull this guy out. the nut, don't drop it. While I'm here, I might as well pull these clips out. I'll pull that off. And I'll get that off. Carefully remove them. We'll move in with the 13mm. That'll give you some room to get that out of the way. Don't drop this. The only thing holding it are those 3 bolts. Carefully remove it, set it aside. Now, you can see we have full access to our spark plug wires. So with that out of the way, we can get from the spark tower to the clip, through this plastic thing. I have no idea how that comes off, over to the plugs. So let's go playing with this. So again, first thing I'm going to do is loosen these guys up. I'm a lot better at it than I was before. This clip here appears to be, it's on the wires, but not attached to anything. So it's there just to help organize things. So we'll carefully remove that right now and get that out of the way. Just pops right off. Pop, pop, pop. I'm going to set this aside. Next set of clips is down here. It's a little harder to get to. From this angle, pop that off. I got that popped off now. And then this plastic thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all these wires together as a group and see if I can do it as an assembly and see if we can snake it out. 1, 2, 3. There's one of those clip things back here. And then, hey, look at that. The whole silly thing slides out. Just like so. And we've got this tubey thing. Oh geez, look, it clips apart too. So we're going to come in with a screwdriver, pop the cover off this. Looks like it's got a couple clips on this side. It pops out, and then we can get the wires out. 1, 2, and 3. So we'll start with the long one, and I'm going to match up the length on the top and pop it in right in the same spot in this thing. I'm going to follow around just to make sure we got a little extra length there. That's good. And we'll come in on the middle one, get a wire that's the same length. Pop it out of this little holder, clip our new one in, and we'll do the same thing on the last one. And then we'll work on routing these wires. So on the number 1 wire, at least it was labeled number 1, there was this little piece of plastic on here. It was on the old one. I'm going to reuse it and stick it back. There it is, got that back on there. Wanted to note from earlier, all these wires were routed behind everything. They're behind this metal tube, behind this. They came right around here where this clip is. So right now, before we forget, we're going to take all these wires and run them through here. I think what I'm going to do is run the wires and get them on the spark plugs before I go and do anything with putting that plastic clamp back together. So I'll run the back one first. Now's as good a time as any to put this cover back on this. Kind of holds it all together. They're all hanging up here I've got to deal with. I'll get in here and get these on now. They have a little more slack than the old wires. These are slightly longer. Clip 1, clip 2. This is the really long one, which is kind of weird. I'll end up getting a clip on there or something. And 3, like leave a loop and put the clip right in there. So where did that little clip go? There we go, that looks pretty good. Alright, we'll work the alternator back in now. And this is usually pretty easy. You just set it in place and hold it. And then I'll put one bolt through this one here. Don't forget to put the little metal guy on there, the bracket. Drop it in. Drop it in. Did put anti-seize on all these bolts. You can kind of see doing an alternator, it's actually an easy job. This little guy on there. Come back with our 10mm. That doesn't go too tight. Put the boot back. Cover them up, put our ground clip on. Put this plug back on. And get in with our 3/8 inch and push. There it is. Make sure all the groovies are lined up. Looks like they are. And now we got to put our snorkel back on. So we'll work the snorkel, we'll get all our hose things out of the way. And this falls off sometimes, a lot when the car gets old. This is a vacuum line that goes down in here on the thing it goes on. Don't forget to hook that on if it falls off, because then you'll have a vacuum leak and the car will run funny. And the controls will work right for the climate control stuff. So this guy should just tuck right in. I do that wrong. All right, I think that's it. We all know that the car doesn't start if you don't have the battery hooked up.